Ghana 1957, the spark that lit Africa's freedom. This is Freedom Files, the untold story of how nations broke their chains. Long before it was called Ghana, this land was known to the world as the Gold Coast. Not because gold defined its people, but because gold attracted empires. European traders arrived in the 15th century. First Portuguese, then Dutch, then British. They built forts along the coast, not to protect Africans, but to protect trade, gold, ivory, and eventually human beings. But inland, powerful African states already existed. The Ashanti Empire in particular stood as one of West Africa's strongest political and military systems. For decades, the Ashanti resisted European domination. Wars were fought, treaties were signed and broken. Slowly, through force and manipulation, Britain expanded its control. By the early 1900s, the Gold Coast was firmly under British rule. The land was reorganized for export. Cocoa became king. Railways and ports were built, not to connect Africans to each other, but to connect resources to ships. Yet something different was happening here. Unlike many colonies, the Gold Coast developed a strong, educated African class. Teachers, lawyers, journalists, traders, who could read the laws, challenge authority, and organize politically. This mattered, because when the time came, Ghana would not whisper for freedom. It would speak. In the early 20th century, African nationalism grew quietly. Unions formed. Newspapers criticized colonial rule. Workers went on strike. But the movement lacked a single voice. Then a young man returned home. His name was Kwame Nkrumah. He had studied in the United States and Britain, where he absorbed ideas of self-determination, Pan-African unity, and mass political mobilization. He believed Africa could not wait for freedom. It had to take it. In 1949, he formed the Convention People's Party. Its demand was simple: self-government now. Not in stages, not when Britain was ready. Nkrumah called for positive action, organized strikes, protests, and civil disobedience. The British responded by arresting him and other leaders. But the people responded by voting. In 1951, while Nkrumah was still in prison, his party won a landslide victory. Britain was forced to release him. Power was shifting. Over the next years, Britain tried to manage the transition carefully, granting more autonomy while hoping to maintain influence. But the momentum could not be controlled. On March 6, 1957, the Gold Coast became Ghana, named after a legendary African empire to reconnect the new nation with Africa's ancient dignity. At midnight, the colonial flag was lowered, the Ghanaian flag was raised, and a black African nation stood free. Kwame Nkrumah became prime minister, but Ghana's independence was not only a national event, it was a continental signal. If Ghana could be free, Africa could be free. Within a decade, more than 30 African nations would follow. Ghana had broken the psychological chain. It proved that empire was not permanent. It proved that Africans could govern themselves. It proved that history could change. What it teaches us: freedom begins as an idea before it becomes a reality. Moral one nation's courage can awaken an entire continent.